Recording in progress is the new name of the show. Once again, we're on the Ultimate Sports Network, Real Boxing Talk with John Raspanti and Clyde Stubblefield, I guess. I'm sorry.
You're lucky you're so. Look at that look. You're lucky you're so far away, Frank.
I could have called you Gene Krupa. Okay. Marching to his own drummer once again, back from hiatus is Charles Farmer. As most of you that are watching the show regularly know that you didn't have a show to watch last week. Life got in the way. Sorry about that. Life is back. We're ready to go. We've got a lot of stuff to talk about this week. A lot of stuff that was going to be coming up, and unfortunately some stuff that is not. So we'll touch on that first. Without any real speculation to it, just the way we feel about the build up to Pacquiao Spence, and now it's not Pacquiao Spence, it's Pacquiao Ugas, which is okay, but it's not what we were looking for. So, Johnson, I read it on Max Boxing about this situation. Give us a little background of what's happening, and we'll go from there. What's not happening? Well,
he was being checked out by a doctor like they all do. That's the way it is. You have to have your medicals. You have to have everything clear and dotted, and the I's dotted and the T's crossed. And they found that they discovered. The thing I don't know is if he said something like, because usually when you have a detached retina, from what I understand, something starts going on in your eye and you start wondering, what's going on here? You got like a number of floaties or something's going on. I don't know about that, but I do know that they determined that he's got a detached retina. So there's no way he can't pass a physical when you have a detached retina. There's no way in the world we're going to, maybe back in the 1900s, they might have okayed it just because they're, it's just boxing. But, so that was it. And the fight that we've been talking about for a couple of months is kaput. And now we got Ugas, who's a good fighter. I'll just sum it up like this, Frank Charles. I have a friend from Oakland who I met years ago at an Andre Ward fight, and he always comments on things. He had bought a ticket to see Spence and Pacquiao, and he was excited. He goes, "Oh man!" He goes, "Here, I bought the ticket, paid the money for Spence and Pacquiao, and I'm getting Pacquiao and Ugas." Not that Ugas is a bum or anything. That word I never want to use with fighters, but I don't even think he said bum. Not that Ugas isn't that good of a fighter, but I really wanted Spence and Pacquiao, like we all did. So I think it was a letdown. When I saw it, I was out somewhere and I read it. I got a text and I went, oh. You think about it, that's two big ones in a row now that have been postponed. Fury and Wilder, obviously, same thing, getting really close to the fight date, and bam. So, and then something else I read that I couldn't confirm, though, just so you know, was that, not that this means anything, but Spence supposedly was getting beat up pretty good by a little small, little quick, little fast, little southpaw. I don't know who it was, but they were getting pretty concerned, and this happened. So, boxing always has to have a little bit of mystery involved in these things. But
of course,
Errol Spence, this was going to be his biggest payday. He was going to make over $10 million for this fight. So, he's got to be devastated. So it's just like all of us. I mean, we're disappointed. We're devastated. It's only a little over a week away. Yeah. So, yeah, big letdown.
Well, Charles, now we have a new fight. And at least it's not, and we talked to Darnell Boone about being the last minute replacement. Mm-hmm. And hopefully you're still in shape. But Ugas was on the undercard. So it's not like he wasn't training to fight. So without really getting into the styles makes fights kind of thing, how does this affect both of these guys?
Wow. Well, I think Pacquiao, because he was ready, he knows that there's a lot of things going on with him, that he's just going to be ready to fight whoever. I mean, he might change the style because of what he was going to go about the business, but I think he's going to go in with the same type of game plan, the focus, the concentration. He doesn't want to lose his edge, because I think deep down inside, it's been said, I heard you guys the last couple of weeks or whatever talking about there's a possibility that Pacquiao could win. And I can see that. Well, a lot of people saying that too. So I don't think that he loses that at all, the intensity, because everybody's talking about him running for president in 2022. But let's say he decides to still fight for some reason or another. He has to win this fight. So he almost has to go in there as if could be his last fight, or it could be a lot of things. So the losing is not an option for him.
Right.
The other thing with Spence, the other fight with Spence, yeah, it was, catch 20-20, 50-50, 40-60, whatever you want to say. But that was what it was. But now in this particular instance, I think he clearly believes Pacquiao, that is in his camp, that he's the more superior guy. He wants to continue to prove that. So whatever he decides to do later, it can be whatever it is. And when you look at the other standpoint of Ugas, though, it's like it's a step up. You get another opportunity. You had an opportunity earlier against a world-class guy. Came up a little short, but maybe Ugas is to the point now saying, "Look, I got a shot, man. Pacquiao's older. Can he bring it again? Everybody, oh yeah, he's gonna do it again. But 40 plus, baby, anything can happen. You had a hell of a fight against Keith Thurman, so maybe Ugas is thinking, you know what? I'm gonna give it a shot. Maybe he's gonna be off that night because there's no guarantees. That's one thing about boxing. We say it all the time. You don't know what the hell's gonna happen until they get in the ring. So he's thinking, I just need to be ready and prepared. I might get a chance. So I think that's when you look at the two sides, that's how they're coming at it. Of course, both of them think they're going to win. Imagine if Ugas wins this fight, bro. I mean, think about what that does for his career and everything. So he has to come in with that mindset. No matter what it is, you don't know again until you get in the ring, until they turn the lights on. So you got to come in with that attitude. So I think both guys coming and entering that they're going to win. Sure, Pacquiao's a little disappointed, but it's what it is. Like, okay, damn, I want to fight him, but the other dude's in the ring, right?
So, still got to fight him, right?
Yeah, he's still in the ring. So if you're in the ring, I still got to handle you. And I think I still think it's going to be a good fight. I mean, for the crowd and everybody, it's just not going to have the same luster. I get that. But hell, still boxing, baby. Pacquiao on the lead, and we do. It wasn't everything went canceled. You still get a fight.
Right. Now, John, we were talking off the air about and we know it's a medical issue, but the recovery time for Spence should be about how long?
I'd say 6 months to a year. I would say I'm not 100% sure, but this is not nearly the almost career ender like we used to hear, like when you talk about Sugar Ray Leonard. We all assumed that he was done when he had the detached retina, and he wasn't. That was years ago. He came back 3 years later. He probably could have come back earlier. It was just when he decided. Sugar Ray was the guy that did it his way for sure. So he decided he was going to come back then. I would think that a year from now, Spence will probably be ready to go. I would be surprised if he's not, especially with everything now. It could be earlier, but I would be safe on that and make sure that he's ready. And so it should be 2022, I would assume.
Okay. Now, Charles, we're going to see if you think along the lines we think along, which I think you're going to. So let's just say, let's play devil's advocate here. Let's say that this is pushed back 6 to 8 months to a year. Mm-hmm. And let's say that Pacquiao has reached his expiration date after this fight. Doesn't say that, I mean, he just says, I'm 42 and a half. I'm running for president. I don't want to go down this road again. Mm-hmm. Here do we go with Errol Spence? Dun, 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 dun.
What you saying?
I'm not.
Who can he fight?
I am the host. I ask questions. You answer.
Oh, so you trying to say? I know what you're leading to. No, that's not happening. That's not
happening.
No. Why would you? If you again, see, that's the other point. And I'm not saying it can't happen, but the guy he's coming off an injury. Errol Spence coming off an injury, right? Not saying he needs a tune-up fight, but he has to make sure he's correct. Again, the whole principle of, and maybe I'm wrong, maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. That's not the first, won't be the first time. But if you're looking from the standpoint of this, you're still the A side, man. Right? You're still the A side. So if I'm Errol Spence, you got to fight somebody. Again, here's what I would say. You got a year. I get out this real quick. You got a year. You want to fight me? We know what's happening. Even if I'm hurt, I can't fight, whatever. I'm not fighting Pacquiao. Tell you what we're going to do. You got a year. I would do this. And I would say, yeah, fight Sean Porter. Show me that you ready. Show me you ready. Beat Sean Porter. Come see me. I got you. Come see me. And then it's like no more excuses. No more running it back to Pacquiao, whatever. Yeah, show me something. Then you remove the excuses.
Okay, and I'm going to forget the name of the show, but it used to be on VH1. Oh, pop-up video. That's what it was. So in the pop-up video thing, there would have been what he was asking was, does Errol Spence Jr. fight Terrence Crawford? And then a little bubble went off. That's what I was asking, but I didn't want to ask it because we don't talk. I know that you know. Yeah. I know that you know, but there might be a few people that are watching the show going, "Oh, he didn't answer the question." Well, I already knew you knew the question, so that's cool. All right, so let's move from that because that's just going to bring up a lot of speculation of what's going to happen and who knows. And when the fight gets moved around like that, we don't know what's going to happen, who's going to be there, who's going to show up. Which, as king of the segue, if I can talk, Casimero is fighting, or was supposed to be fighting, who this weekend, John?
Donier.
And now he's fighting
Rigondeaux, the Cuban legend.
And it's the same situation. Donier was not able to fight, so now we've moved around. Now, here's the thing that I think is interesting about this. The same thing with Ugas. It's not like Ugas is some guy that can't fight, right? Casimero is 30-4. Rigondeaux was 20-1, and without that one big loss, he'd probably still be king of the division, or at least in his section of it. We know how these things are all moved around and all that. So it's not like, again, the replacement is some guy that is found off the street, the Rocky situation. This should be a good fight. So what are we looking at in this fight? This is the WBA bantamweight title that's going to be on Showtime.
Well, it's the styles that you mentioned a little while ago. Donier, people reason got excited about that is because Donier would have been a firefight, most likely, because Donier comes in firing, and we know Casimero always is. He's a rough, physical dude. But what happened there is people probably, maybe they don't remember, is the VADA testing got to be an issue with Casimero, and insulted Donier's wife too, and then his team got nasty, and Donier said, "Look, I don't care. I don't need you. Get away from me." And that was pretty much it. Rigondeaux said, "That's okay. I'll fight him. I don't care." So it's going to be that. It's going to be the bull and the matador, basically, if it goes according to what we're thinking. Rigondeaux is like a lot of those Cuban fighters. They're very good fighters. Pretty much all of them. They all might not make champions, be a champion, but they all have really good technique. Very smart. His loss to Lomachenko was too big and not tall, but stronger, and he had no answer. He couldn't hurt him, couldn't do anything to him, so he lost. He's fighting a guy here who's a little smaller, perhaps, than him, but also very brutal and physical and punches really hard. So you know what he's thinking. He's thinking, I'm just going to tame this guy. I'm just going to outbox him. So it's going to be the stalker and the boxer. And Rigondeaux will rumble with you if you find him.
Right.
So this might be one of those slow burners where it takes a while. And I want to say one more thing about Pacquiao before we get off that. I know we'll talk about it more next week, but I wanted to say this. One of the things that bothers me about Pacquiao's situation is, will he have a letdown here? Because I'm gonna say it forever. I'm gonna say when he fought Jeff Horn, he wasn't there. No. He was there, but he was not motivated.
Right.
Now you're motivated to fight one of the best fighters in the world, and instead you're fighting a guy that nobody talks about like that. So he's got to make sure up here that he's as focused or as close to as focused as he can be. So that's a challenge. 42 years old, that's a challenge when you're 22 years old, but that's definitely going to be a challenge. But back to Rigondeaux, yeah, that should be an interesting fight, Frank. Like I said, I think it's going to be a slow burner, and probably heat up as it goes on.
Well, Charles, that brings up a point here, because that could be the same thing that Casimero goes through. I mean, he was expecting to fight Donaire, which, Donaire had come back and done some wonderful things, and you're fighting, the guy, and you're fighting Rigondeaux, who the last time we saw him with Lomachenko didn't look like he was that good. Or Lomachenko made it look bad, however you want to put it. But we also understand that Rigondeaux had a long amateur career, 20-1, only one loss, and the perception will be that this is a replacement fighter. But in actuality, this guy was probably in line for a title fight sometime in the near future anyway. So does Casimero have a letdown? Or is it, look, I'm fighting for the belt. It's my belt. I really don't care who it is over there. I'm going to go walk through it.
Well, one would say that you would think that Casimero better be ready to go like that, because there's nothing about Rigondeaux is nobody's replacement, bro.
Right.
Because he's been through it. He's been through the ringer. Now he might be a little older. He may, he might be on that other edge. You say he's kind of, we don't want to call it washed up, but he's not as great as he was.
Sliding down.
But one thing you should know, it's like he has a puncher's chance, and he has the ability to maybe cause some issues for Casimero, especially him being smaller, because we also know, though, there's that mind game. And maybe Rigondeaux comes in because he's been with so many great fighters, and you thinking that he was off his game because of the factor that he lost the way he did to Lomachenko, right? And then he comes back and he just throws the game to you totally differently. So the mindset, that's the other thing too. We talk Casimero is, proving himself, but is he on that level like that though? That's my only thing too, because when you've been in them wars like that with Rigondeaux, you're like, okay, well, I know I got him, and you come out like the bull John mentioned that he is. Rigondeaux coming out like, okay, well, I'm gonna stick right here. I'm gonna show you a little something, take you on the deep waters, frustrate you, give you a few elbows, headbutt you, whatever I need to do to get you out your mindset.
Right. And
that plays a part in itself as well. So I wouldn't be so quick to just kind of throw Rigondeaux out the way, because maybe he feel like this is a chance again. So that's the beauty about boxing. You don't know what the hell's going to happen until they get in there, but you almost have to cover all bases. Well, we talked about Pacquiao as well. You got to cover all bases and be ready, because you never know what's going to happen.
Well, and this is another situation on the undercard. This is something that we may see, something that we're not ready for. It's another Gary Russell, starting to go by Antonio Russell, not Gary Antonio Russell or Gary Russell. But anyway, Gary Antonio Russell for the WBA interim bantamweight title. I know we said we don't want to talk about interim silver crap and all that stuff, but this is an important fight, I think, because 18-0 Gary Antonio Russell is going to fight Emmanuel Rodriguez, who has looked good until losing his last two fights. He took care of Jason Moloney, handed Moloney his first loss, and then he got blasted out by Inoue, which, okay, there's no disrespect to that. And then we're looking at now coming back and fighting Gary Antonio Russell for a lower tier belt. But this sets up, I believe, the next level of where we're going bantamweights. So, John, can Gary Antonio Russell establish himself as the next guy, or is it still too early in his career for that?
Well, it's a little early, but from what I've seen, he looks really talented. He's got some pop. Nice you mentioned that, because my old friend from years ago, Lem Satterfield, used to write for The Ring. Great, just a tremendous guy, one of the nicest people you'd ever meet in your life. He wrote a really, really poignant article about Gary Antonio, because one of the Russell brothers died, and Gary was very close to him. And this fight, I wouldn't say he's dedicating this fight to his brother, but he's very emotional about it. So he's very close, the Russells. So check that article out on Max Boxing. It's an excellent article on Gary Antonio. He from everything I've seen, Frank, and I have to admit I haven't seen a lot, but what I've seen, he looks like the real deal. He's 28 years old, and they're moving him up to fight. They're going to fight sooner than later with the guys, because he looks that good. So this ought to be a revealing fight in the sense that we maybe find out more. But I expect him to win. Last time I saw him, he really looked like, man, this guy is a bold prospect, and he's going to be out of that prospect league very soon, and he's going to be a big time contender, and he's getting there.
Well, Charles, it's time for me to eat a little crow because we've been railing on, or I've been railing on, the inactivity between Gary Russell Jr. or by Gary Russell Jr. But Antonio and Antoine seem to be active and ready to go. So maybe, just maybe, Gary Russell Jr. is saying, I want to be in the corner with my brothers, and I'm going to spend more time doing that, and we're going to see them come along and take over the world. So let's maybe give Gary Russell Jr. the benefit of the doubt and say, what's happening with these other guys? We saw Antoine back in, was it February, March, something like that. It's rolling through my head. Now we're going to see Antonio. Is this, as we said, can they take over the world by being Gary Russell, Gary Russell, Gary Russell?
I don't know about taking over the world, but they can move up. I mean, it's about steps, man. I mean, that's what it is. I mean, the junior is the one that kind of put it out there for him. He's so-called leading the charge a little bit more, probably the more accomplished one. But if he wants to hang in the background, that's cool too. But the other two brothers are like, you know, hey, we got Pop, 18-0. We showing you what we can do. They're taking steps. So, and how far they go, we'll see. Maybe by the time they take their steps, Junior will come back and fight some damn body. That's who we want to see. So, I mean, we getting Russells all over the place, but I think it's a great opportunity because maybe instead of, like you said, helping the brothers out in the forefront, maybe Junior will get Gary Russell Jr. will get the itch to go, yeah, I think it's time for me to get in there. So anytime you hear the Russells in there, any of the Gary Russells, middle name change, whatever you want to call it, anytime they're in the ring, it's exciting, and it's exciting because maybe Junior will get, again, off that stool. And you know he's training. That's the thing that pisses me off.
He's training with his brothers, right?
You know he's training. So dude is in impeccable shape, just waiting for him to do what he does. So that's what I'm looking for. But yeah, I think they're not in a rush. We know they're not in a rush because they're not doing nothing fast. So they are not going to take over anything fast, but I think they'll move up.
Frank, real fast, Frank, just real quick. I love it. The name, Charles, you're going to love this. This is like we were talking about earlier, right? You do your own thing. You don't care what people think. The name of the gym that the Russells use, because they used to train in their dad's basement. They have their own gym now. The name of it, Enigma. Love that, Enigma, because that's what Gary Russell is. Yeah. He is an enigma. I mean, and maybe his whole family is. So maybe he's just doing what comes natural. And yeah, it's disappointed us boxing fans because he's got so much talent, and he knows it. You talk to him, Mr. Gary Russell. I mean, he knows he's damn good. It's just, I don't know. He just does his own thing, and he doesn't care. So there you go.
I would have thought you were going to say the name of the gym was Gary Russell, but okay.
And I got a little creative.
Yeah. Okay. So now, as we make another segue talking about, well, let me say this first. Charles, you made a good point. If Antonio and Antoine are working and training and fighting, I'm pretty sure it's safe to say that Gary Russell Jr. isn't sitting on the stool on the side watching. No, go run some more miles. Okay, I mean, he's working with them. So if and when he comes back to the forefront, it's not like it's going to take a lot for him to get into shape to fight. I'm sure he's sparring. I'm sure he's doing all this stuff himself with his brothers. So he's not too far out of the loop. Is that safe to assume?
No doubt. I think that's right on point. When you think about them being in the same gym, and the dude, you just look at him, he's an athlete. You can just tell he's always in shape. And I mean, you probably take his shirt off. You're like, man, that dude, look, he's still working out. Because that's what fighters do. Plus two, in order to really help his brothers along the way they want to move them along at such a pace, you got to show them things. I mean, a lot of people don't understand. I was watching something real quick the other day where Errol Spence and Charlo were sparring. A lot of people didn't know that. They spar. They spar. So people are like, oh, what is that what you thought you saw? Yeah, that's what you saw. So yeah, so that's what you do. You gotta, in order to make a guy better, brothers too, iron sharpen iron. You gotta get in there with a guy and take that risk and show that you're capable of battling out on a few days.
Well, and as I said, the segue is I saw a post on Facebook or YouTube or something where, and I'm not sure, I do know now. It was Jason Moloney for a minute and a half punching Andrew Moloney in the stomach. And Andrew Moloney goes, go ahead. And it wasn't like he was just tapping him. He was blasting. And again, brothers fighting, or training brothers, I guess is a better way of putting it. This is the fight now. Maybe I'm overselling it. I'm sorry if I have, because that's all we had for a few months, were the fights in the bubble. And this is the fight in the bubble that made me go, what did I just see? So John, we'll go to you real quick. The resumption, I guess, of the second fight, really, is what I'm looking at. But the third fight between Joshua Franco and Andrew Moloney. On the ESPN, it would be great if they had in the bubble, but they're in, what, Tulsa, I think? Or wherever.
Yeah.
What can we expect from this?
Well, that guy, Bob Arum, who we were talking about off camera, he did what he said. When he said to the officials in Vegas, right, if you do this, I'm getting the F out of here. And he did. He took the third fight to Tulsa. This one is a really intriguing one to me again, Frank, because I'm like you. You and me both been talking about, so is Charles, of course, this fight between these two guys, the two fights, the second one was a total ripoff, as we know. It's intriguing because Franco's had time now to digest what happened to him. He's never going to admit that, yeah, it wasn't a headbutt. No, Moloney keeps saying, you know the truth, man. And Franco's like, oh, it was definitely a headbutt. He says there's no way he's going to admit it, but he knows. So if he's a smart guy, and one of his nicknames is the professor, so he's got to be pretty smart. He had to go back and go, why was I getting the crap beat out of me in that second fight? So that's why, as much as I will admit, as much as I put my boxing writer's hat on the side and want Moloney to win, I will admit that because of what happened to him in the second fight. Franco is not just going to go away easy, I don't think. I think he's going to be ready for Moloney to start fast and try to start a little faster. Now, some guys can't start fast because Moloney started fast in the first fight too, and then he faded and Franco just took over in the second half of the fight. So I think Franco is going to be ready for what Moloney brings, and then Moloney, will he maybe tweak it a little bit? Will he go, oh yeah, you think I'm going to start fast, but I'm not going to start that fast. I'm going to start a little in the middle, and then I'm just going to build because I'm popping you with shots. So this fight is, you talk about flying under the radar. I think the only people that even care about it are in Australia. Now, I mean, an example, I put it on Max Boxing as a lead and put Pacquiao on there and gets 10,000 views in a span of 2 hours. I put this fight on here, it gets like 50.
Well, Charles, here is my take, and this is, I think, well, my take doesn't matter. Your take. Where does Franco go here? Does Franco look at it as, because if he's honest with himself, whether it was a headbutt or a thumb or whatever, he knows he was getting whacked out in the second fight. In the first fight, he took care of business. In the second fight, he did not.
You're the owner. Yeah, we're still gonna go.
Does he go through? We got a little side action going here. Does he go through in this fight thinking, okay, I got jobbed in the second fight, or I got my butt kicked regardless of what happened? So how does Franco attack this fight?
Well, I think John said a little bit earlier that the way he attacks it is, okay, whatever happens behind me, right? So you can say, even if you said, if he had missed himself, maybe I wasn't on my best game in the second fight and I lost. No, even though I got away with one, from that standpoint, I think he has to be thinking, and his team has to be telling him, whatever happened is behind him, right? It's behind him. So now that is behind him, behind myself, then now I get to move forward. So I won the first fight. Everybody knows that. Second fight, you be the judge. I don't care. I still got my belt. Third fight, he's coming in like it's a clean slate. And I have just a much of an opportunity or a chance to win this fight. And I have to make him beat me because I'm the champion. Right. And I think that's when he comes in with that mindset. So we always gonna look at that second fight and talk about what a travesty it was and whatnot, but that's the past. And I think his mindset has to be, and if he really wants to win, because he has to be saying to himself, I won the first fight.
Right.
right?
It wasn't given to me. I won.
Yeah, I won. So it's not like I can't beat him. It's just what am I going to do to win the third fight? So put the second belt high. I think he really is coming in with the attitude of I got a hell of a chance. I think I can beat him. I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna study the first tape. I'm gonna see what the hell I did wrong the second time. And for all of that being said, when we talked about this before, most people said, we even said too, that we think Moloney had the motivation. But truthfully, Franco has motivation too. Because it's like, y'all just think he gonna come in here and win. He might have, I might have a bad night, but hell, I think I can win this third fight. So I think it brings into the forefront a lot of intrigue. I think it's great for boxing. I think it's gonna be a hell of a fight because you don't know. Right. Again, we say that all the time, but it's real. So yeah, I would never discount Franco just yet because we've had to tell the two, almost the lovely book, The Tale of Two Cities, right? Had two different outcomes, two different fights. The third one is for all the marbles. So let's not just give Moloney this fight because we want him to receive redemption like we thought he should have in the second fight. But let's not just be too quick to give it to him because Franco might be like, psh, he had a good night. That was his night. I didn't take it from him. They took it from him, but I'm taking it from him tonight.
Of all the authors in the history of the world, you had to find somebody whose name is the same as yours. How did you do that? Now, okay, but here's the thing. Let's look at this in a way historically, and maybe we can actually cite examples. I don't know, but when you have a trilogy, and I think the most famous or infamous one we can think of is Ali Frazier. Mm-hmm. And you split the first two fights. Who has the advantage, do you think, in the third fight? Is it the guy that won the second fight or the guy that won the first fight? Because maybe he can go back to the first fight and fight that way, or he knows he has to make adjustments, whereas the guy that won the second fight thought, well, I won the second fight fighting this way. I don't have to make adjustments. Who has the advantage in your mind in a vacuum, if we're all the same? Who has to come out and say, I'm going to fight this way like I won the second fight, or I have to make adjustments to avoid happening what happened in the first fight?
Wow, that's kind of difficult because it really would depend on the styles, but I'm going to use it in a vacuum and say from the general standpoint. I'm not sure if you can just say that because you won the first fight, yeah, I think I can win, or because I won the second fight. I don't think you can do that. I'll say that I think you really have to look at it and say the advantage comes down to the individual. And I'll just use the Franco situation now. I think Franco has the advantage right now. And I'm saying that because of the factor that he won the first fight legitimately, right? There was controversy in the second fight. And Moloney's going to be hyped up. But Franco was like, despite, there was no controversy when I won the first fight. Right. All I have to do is think about my game plan, realize he's going to be a lot more hungrier. The other thing too is thinking Moloney's really going to want to prove a point that madness wasn't a fluke, that he deserves to be there. And maybe he's going to get over anxious. Maybe he's going to come out, as you guys mentioned, too quick. So if I'm Franco, I'm like, regardless of all that, I am the champion. Now, this doesn't say Moloney can't win, but everything is in Franco's it's sitting in his corner. He has the upper hand, I think, because all he has to do is wait, be patient, and make the guy beat him. So Moloney, no, I'm just saying Moloney, think about it this way. Moloney has to prove that he is worthy and can win. No matter how much we want to talk about it, we rehashed it over and over about how horrible that decision was they made in the second fight. At the end of the day, on paper, who is the champion? Who has to do the most? And I think that falls on Moloney. And I think Franco can use that to his advantage because Moloney's going to have to come out and prove it. The question is he going to have the right mindset? Is he going to have collectively be ready, be able to do that and win the fight? Also not worrying about, damn, are the judges going to do me again?
Right.
Yeah.
Now, the thing that we're going to gloss over, I'm sure that we already have, is that, as we said, Franco won the first fight, and he only lost a round and a half in the second fight. He lost them convincingly, but he only lost a round and a half in the second fight. It's not like he was getting blasted out for 7 more rounds before that happened.
Right.
So there's no telling if he could have come back. I don't think he could have. I think that the fight was over. No matter what happened, the fight was over. But if we're talking about Moloney domination, if we're looking at it in the entire thing, it was a few rounds early in the first fight, a few rounds early in the second fight. Other than that, it was all Franco, or mostly Franco.
Right.
So I think, and I'm going to look at my by looking at it, my opinion is that Moloney has an advantage because he was so dominant at the end of what happened.
Okay.
But from what you just said, it's making me rethink it, because there was only so much that Moloney has shown us, as opposed to the entirety of what Franco showed us in this. So there are a couple of ways of what can happen. So let's get inside of Moloney's head and say, is he thinking about that round and a half? Or is he thinking about the entirety of what's happened? Or is he not thinking about it at all?
No, I think that, I mean, he has to be thinking about the momentum that he had in the second fight. I think because that's when he was so-called somewhat dominant, right? He had the upper hand. He was showing that he was the guy, and it was taken from him. So I think he has to be doing that. Because Moloney goes back to the overall spectrum of it, as you mentioned, both fights, I think it's like, that's not where you want to be, because he lost the first fight. You don't want to be there. You want momentum. You want to build on it. You say, I beat him the first time. I think I can do the same thing to him. I can dominate him, or I can at least have the upper hand to win this fight. So I think you stick with the second fight, and then you continue to build off of what he's done. Because I mean, collectively, as you just said, maybe it was something where Moloney's like, dude, I did just enough to win that second fight. So I need to be far. If I'm a trainer, if I'm a coach or half brother, whatever, I'm telling Moloney, don't even worry about the damn first fight. That doesn't even count. We have an edge right now. We have something. We see something. We're gonna keep looking at him. If it does not work, what we did last time in the latter part of that fiasco, we're gonna go to something else. You have to keep the momentum going. I think that's what he's going to do, because you start going back collectively. Like I said, this is the past. You got to build off of what you were doing well, and that's all you can do.
Well, John, what we were talking about was basically, this is the third in a trilogy. And since, you wrote a book about a trilogy, well, we might consider you to be an expert about this. Who has the advantage? And I know I said I don't ask the same question, since you didn't hear the answer. Screw that. Who has the advantage in a fight that's the third fight? Is it the guy that won the first round, or the first battle, or the guy that won the second? Is it, I've done this more recently, so I know what to do, and I don't have to make any changes? Or the guy that did something right in the first fight that lost the second fight says, now I can do something completely different, or I can discard what happened in the last fight and go back to what happened in the first fight. Let's see what happens here. Who has the advantage in those adjustments or in not making adjustments?
Well, to me, the fresher memory is Moloney. He knows what he was doing to Franco, and Franco knows what was happening to him. So to me, he has a little bit of an edge right in the beginning. It's going to depend on what Franco does. If Franco says, well, we know about that, but I'm not that guy from a number of months ago. I'm ready for you now. If you're talking about Gotti and Ward, Gotti just knew that he could outbox Ward, so he was going to do that. And he also knew that he'd get into a firefight with him, which is what he preferred anyway. He didn't have Buddy McGirt yelling in his ear. He most likely would have just said, oh, F this boxing thing. I want to stand here and rumble with this guy. He's like my twin. So in this case, Moloney is dealing with a lot of things. I think Franco's motivated, but I think Moloney's obsessed. I do. I think he's just got to be careful and not be too eager. But I still think he's bringing that extra intensity into this fight. And being an ex-jock, as we all are. I love that intensity thing. And he wants, I'm gonna snarl a little bit. He wants his revenge, and he can taste it. And Franco's like, I'm not impressed. So that the mind games, but Moloney is not one to talk much, and he hasn't been saying anything nasty about Franco, because when he lost, if you remember, he didn't say, it was a bad decision or I had a bad day. He said he won. So he's a class act. I think I would give Moloney a little edge going in, just because what have you done for me lately? You know, those things. Right. And the last thing we saw was what Moloney was doing. So Moloney, I think he, like I said, he might start a little slower, but then again, he might say, okay, I'm going to go out there and see if he's got any answers to what I did in the first fight. But this is the thing about sports. Franco might have been having a bad day that day. Moloney was at the top, and Moloney be at the top of his game again, and Franco be a little bit down. And see, I think Franco's going to lift his game in this one. Mm-hmm. And right now, I would give Moloney, right before the bell rings, Moloney's got the edge.
Well, something we mentioned, now if you look at it in the entirety of things, Franco has been the better fighter overall. If you look at how many rounds he's won as opposed to how many rounds that Franco or the Moloney's won. You know, Moloney won a few rounds in the first fight and a round and a half in the second fight, where Franco was won more rounds. So maybe that's something Franco says, look, I've been the better fighter overall, and I won. Moloney hasn't won any of these yet. So maybe that's the mindset that he goes into. So there are so many things that play in this thing that I think is going to be fascinating. And it's something that we're really going to see something. And there's something else that's going to come out of this, because we're about the end of this. The bubble fights or the bubble situation or whatever. We're going to see, I think this is going to be the definitive moment of that, of how different was it fighting in the bubble as opposed to fighting outside of the bubble. Now, we know fighters go and train for 3 months or whatever at Big Sur or someplace and just go away. But this was a whole different thing. They couldn't go anyplace else other than where they were. And I think we're about to see what that kind of camp meant to them. Some people might have adjusted better. Some people might have adjusted poorly. And maybe we're going to see that Franco just didn't do well in the bubble. I don't know. That's something that I don't think we've talked about, or anyone's really been talking about, how from back to January and maybe a little bit further than that, we said, we're going to have fights in Vegas and you have to be here for 2-3 months. Charles, am I reaching for that, or is that going to be something, maybe not in this fight, but we're going to see that the people that have done well in the bubble or haven't done well in the bubble, will that change how they did outside the bubble?
Well, I mean, there's a possibility. I mean, just how you train. I mean, there's something about having a crowd there, things of that nature. I do think one of the things you did mention, you know, I mean, you didn't really, you dove into it a little bit, but it might have it might play a part. And I know John mentioned about Moloney having that aggression and being ready and being fired up and whatnot. But if I'm Franco, I'm saying to myself, as you're saying, you know, it's all mind games. I used to love that in basketball. You know, we beat you the first time, and you swear you trying to get us back. You're gonna be over anxious. You're gonna do something stupid. You are, because you're trying to get back at me. And I'm like, all right, I'm gonna let you tire yourself out. I'm gonna do something. I'm gonna play a mind game with you. Also, too, think about it. Tulsa, right? That's where Franco's from, correct?
No, so, that's where none of them are from Tulsa.
Oh, they're not from Tulsa? Okay.
No one's from Tulsa. That's the thing that blew me away.
But is Franco from like Texas or somewhere?
Franco's from San Antonio, yeah.
Okay. So I mean, I ain't saying Tulsa, but my point of that is with a crowd though.
It ain't Sydney.
Yeah, exactly. With a crowd, and you know, some of Franco's people are gonna be there. So I guess, and I know I'm throwing, here's another Frank Gordon special, but I'm gonna use it for these purposes. One has a thing too, that being close, with the fight being that close to Texas, and the crowd coming for Franco, right? The other question, John, I definitely want you to answer and see what you think about this too, is does Moloney, if he starts to lose, start thinking about, damn, they're gonna do it to me again? And we know boxers do that, because they start looking around and they go, oh my God, am I doing enough? And what is the corner going to say? If you're not, you come in, you are aggressive because you were doing it like you said in the end of the second fight. You're aggressive and you're like, all right, I'm getting it in. Then all of a sudden you go, well, damn, he ain't just let me do that like he did the first time. And then now you're thinking, we don't know.
Oh crap! Here it goes again.
Are the referees gonna do me again? The referee did me the last time. I know that's a lot, and that's what makes it so crazy and interesting because we get to talk about it and nobody knows till they fight. But that's something in my mind is like it's live, and there's no guarantee that he's going to start that way. But I'm thinking, I know that's a lot of craziness, but
because
it's fun to think about.
To tell you the truth, this is human nature. This is what separates normal people from the superstars. Is do you succumb to things where, oh, I'm thinking about stuff that's not happening right now? Are you in the moment, or are you worried about? And I see it happen in tennis all the time. Guy wins the first set, so he thinks he's got the match won. Guy loses the first set, I don't care. You know, it's the best 2 out of 3, best 3 out of 5. All I have to do is keep doing what I'm supposed to do, and I'm going to win. Whereas the guy, especially when you're on top of the guy that's supposed to win, hey, it's great, I'm winning, I'm going to do what I'm supposed to do, and the guy that's supposed to win says, so I won a set, big deal, who cares? The idea that you have that mindset or you don't have that mindset, that's going to change things. And it's an astute observation. Will he be in the ring, Moloney we're talking about, thinking just that? Or will he put that all out of his mind and just say, I'm going to fight each round as it comes? That's a tough thing. And John, we've seen that with a lot of guys. And Charles, that is the perfect template for when we started talking about the modern era, as we call it, of boxing, when we saw, or you made me watch the Pacquiao-Marquez fight. Marquez could have said, it's over. There's no way I can do this. There's nothing else I can worry about. I'm down 6 rounds or however much it was in the first round. I can't win this fight. And he got a draw because he won the rest of the fight. John, is this a valid thing to say Moloney is at this point confident that he's winning until he's not winning? And then we'll maybe get into his head like, uh-oh. And now, as Charles said, now I got to press. Now I have to do more. Or is it he's that solid of a fighter that he's not going to worry about it?
And he's not a great fighter. Let's be honest. I mean, this is the whole essence of boxing. I mean, it's obviously not just physical; it's so mental. What I think would make him worry is if he's beating up Franco again, and the referee stops it and warns him about something. That might trigger something. Yeah. Say he hits him low by accident, and the referee jumps in there right away and warns him. It's like oh,
we're not having this again. Yeah, right.
Here we go again. So it could end up. You know, if I was his friend, I would be telling him, look, you know, this is a whole new fight now. Don't think about the other 2 fights. Yeah, you know what you did well in the second fight. You know what happened in the first fight. But try your hardest to let all that crap go and just concentrate on what you think you need to do in the third fight. If the really good trainers, I remember watching Virgil Hunter, he would talk scenarios and he would go, okay, if this happens, we're going to do this to Andre Ward. If this happens, we're going to do this. And I'm sure that if it was me, I wouldn't be putting too many things in Moloney's head. All I would keep telling him is, look, you did really good in the second fight. When we talk about it, just remember that. That's when you did good. Build off that. You can't control the judges. You can't control the referee. You just go in there. You can't control the crowd. That's true. You know, Charles made a good point. I'm sure you too, Frank, that there's going to be a lot of Texans there pulling for Franco, and they'll probably be pretty loud about it because they usually are. How many are going to be there for Moloney? Hopefully he doesn't let any of that stuff bother him.
Right.
Hard to say. Well, I doubt he will.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because most fighters, the one thing they said about the bubble is they hated it because they missed the crowd so much.
Right.
You know, the guy Josh Warrington, you know, who's fighting Lara here in a rematch, biggest fight of his career, really. He said, not making excuses, he just said, I just felt like I was sparring in there, you know, I just couldn't get myself going. And if the thing about Moloney is this, like I said earlier, he's got to stay laser focused. if he loses his concentration, Franco's going to take over. And Charles, you're right again. Too. Franco's probably going, oh, good man. You be all pumped up and energetic and intense and all those things. You go ahead. Remember, I won.
Yeah.
Right. I won and you didn't. Right.
So and Franco seems to be pretty damn good at the mind games from what I've been reading. He's the professor, right? So he keeps reminding Moloney, I'm the champion.
Right.
Not you.
Yeah. Definitely on paper. That's all that matters.
That's right.
Now,
That's right. And Moloney counters back with, well, yeah, you know what really happened. And he goes, no, I'm the champ.
Yeah, I'm the champ, right. Now,
So,
I'm going to ask a question that may or may not have any impact on this, and we'll move on from there. Jason Moloney is fighting in the undercard, and he's trying to get himself back to that level as well. And we've seen the Charles fight on the same card. And I'm trying to remember because we've been doing the Jerry Quarry thing a few times. If Mike Quarry fought an undercard of the Jerry Quarry fight, which I think he did a couple of times. Does that affect that outcome of having your sibling fighting on the card ahead of you? Does that affect, rightly or wrongly, where his mindset's going to be in his fight? Or is it just like, hey, we did that for publicity. I don't really care about his fight. I'll watch it on video tomorrow, but I'm focused in on my fight.
Wow. I think that Andrew has to be focused on this fight. You just have to, right? Because of the factor that the way that it ended, right? And as John said, you got to be laser focused. I mean, you don't want your brother to lose, but that cannot be of any significance. Same way, when you flip it with Jason. Jason has to be focused on his fight because you're trying to get back. You don't know how many more opportunities you're going to have. So I'm separating those guys, going to look, okay, hey, man, I'm not going to watch a fight. I got to get my mindset. We both need to win. So I think they need to separate them. And I wouldn't even watch the fight. I'd be like, you can tell me about it later or whatever, or you tell me afterwards. But these guys are both on the mission. You got one guy, you got Andrew that's trying to secure himself because he think he got jobs out of the first fight, right? Second fight, should I say. And then you got the other brother, they're trying to say, man, I got to find my way back up because right now I'm on the bottom. I'm not where I want to be at. So I would separate them. We wouldn't even talk about it. Hey, good luck, bro. I see you when it's over. Meet you over at the bar, wherever, mama's house or whoever's house, wherever we're going. Well, they're from Australia. We're at somebody's connection and let's get some drinks. But yeah, because as John said, the one thing you don't want is you don't want any type of interference getting in the way of what they need to do, because they both are going to need to be laser focused to win their fights. Because at the end, that's all they want to do, win.
I can't even hear I can hear the Australian accent in my voice in my head. I can't do it right now. Okay. Looking at Crocodile Dundee, which isn't the right thing. Anyhow, all right. So we have one other aspect that I want to touch on real quick, but we're not going to go in depth with it because unfortunately we don't have that kind of information in our heads. But the Zone is showing an interesting card because it's something that we don't normally follow. And I'm going to be interested to see this because, as John said, this day is going to be like a 14-hour event of boxing. So I'm going to be interested to see this. And hopefully it's going to play out well. The Zone has the international welterweight title. I know that doesn't make a lot of sense to people. I know we kind of think that that's kind of weird, but the WBO version is Virgil Ortiz against Kavalauskas, Virgil Ortiz Jr. The WBA super featherweight belt is on the line with Roger Gutierrez against Rene Alvarado. And here's the thing that I think is interesting, because I'll tell you, and I'm going to ask the question to both of you real quick. The WBO minimum weight title is on the belt between Wilfredo Mendez and Carlos Buitrago. Now, Charles, how many minimum weight fights have you watched?
Man, I don't even know what the hell that is anyway. Minimum weight. So I mean, what does that mean? That the lowest weight that you can be at for the belt or what? Explain that to me.
Is that a schoolyard? Is that a schoolyard fight?
The
kids.
Is it 10 something and below or something like that?
106, I think, and below, something like that. Yeah.
Right.
And how old are these people?
I said it's a schoolyard between two 12-year-olds.
Are you serious?
These are guys that didn't qualify to be jockeys. No, I'm sorry. This is
They're
not
too
funny.
small.
I shouldn't be joking about this. These are professional fighters, yes.
Yes.
So we go minimum weight, and I believe it's light flyweight, then it's flyweight, if I'm not mistaken. If that's
Okay, all right. I
So-
mean, yeah. I guess
Right, now-
my answer would be, I mean, I don't know. I mean, hell, because I've only watched whatever they put on. So,
right.
and I'm not sure how many 106 pounds fighters are they considered legit? I mean, you know what I mean? I mean, that's so.
This weight class has been in existence forever. You know.
Yeah, yeah, they're legit.
Do you know any champions? Does anybody know?
I don't
any
know. That's my point. I know none. And it's not to disparage them, but they don't show them.
Right.
As you said, if they don't put it on the air, I can't see it.
Right.
So when we look at this, and this is the thing that I think is interesting. Now, we've probably watched them in the Olympics. We've probably seen them on the Olympics and go, okay, they're on. All right, and that was a nice 3 minutes. Let's move off of that. These are people that are considered to be world champions. And they are. And this is why we have weight classes. And I think it's interesting to see that we have bantamweights, we have flyweights, we have welterweights, we have middleweights, we have all these people fighting, and they don't show these fights, and now they're going to show them. So I'll be interested to see how it works out because these are world champions.
Let me ask you a question. Can I ask a question real quick?
Please do.
When you talk about that lightweight, and I know he's probably nowhere near being that small, the first thing that came to my mind, first boxer, and I know he probably was nowhere close to that. I'm probably way off. The first thing came to my mind was a young Michael Carbajal. I don't know why that is. He seemed like a very stick figure to me when I remember boxing. Little Michael Carbajal. I was like, how is he even fighting? He seemed real small. Now I don't have to go back and check to see how small he really was at the beginning. But when you said that small weight, I'm like, the smallest dude I think I remember was like was Michael Carbajal.
I'm going to say that he was 118, but I could be wrong about that. That's just off the top of my head. That's what I think. He might have been 126, but I want to say 118 to start with. But again, and these are the weight classes that are like, 2 or 3 pounds apart when we get down to this part as well.
Right.
So it's a sandwich. It's a bowl of biscuits and gravy between one and another, right? So, but John, now you've been around this a long time. Have you ever? And again, I'm not trying to be a smartass about this. I'm being serious. Have you ever said, "Hey, it's a minimum weight fight. I got to go." Or straw weight, I think, is the next weight above us. I'm sorry, straw weight. Have you ever said, "I have to go see this," or when it's on TV, well, wait, I got to check this out. And do you even know who these guys are?
I've heard of these guys, but I think I've seen like 2 fights of the minimum weight fighters. I had all kinds of jokes I was going to throw in there that probably wouldn't have been very, very nice to throw in there about these little guys, because I was going to say something like, I throw one in, well, yeah, they got to have close-ups because they're so small they can't even see them in the ring, but they're just little guys. But the thing is those little guys usually can really fight. So that's the thing, and you're going, oh, wow, this is they don't waste any time. They just get at it right away. And you're talking about Michael Carbajal. Yeah, he was, little hands of stone, right? And he was really a tough guy. So no, I haven't seen that much. And like you, Frank, I'm going to be very interested to see these guys go at it.
Well, in my neighborhood growing up, the baddest kid in the neighborhood was the smallest kid in the neighborhood. That was somebody you didn't want to mess with because he fought every day. He fought for everything. And he got to the point where he kicked everybody's butt every day. You look down and go, okay, whatever you say. So I understand that these, and again, the thing is, they're fighting the same weight. It's not like you're asking a guy that's 106 to fight somebody that's 147. So it's fighter against fighter, and it's for a belt. So I'm just interested to see how it plays out because I've never seen it. Yeah, please go right ahead, sir.
So, not say nothing.
Do some research.
But apparently, Michael Carbajal fought at light flyweight at one point, which was 108.
Okay, right. Okay, yeah. So you have seen them in that range before, right?
Seen him, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
And you were intrigued by Michael Carvajal, weren't you?
Oh, very much so.
Yeah.
Very much so. I thought he was a stellar champion. Definitely.
So this is something that, and this is where we're at a lot of times. We get what the media, and we are the media, what we feed people. And sometimes we feed the good, sometimes we feed the bad. But we don't always feed the masses what is out there. And so I applaud DAZN, and I think in the last year or two, I probably have applauded DAZN maybe never. I applaud DAZN for having this on. You know, it's like boxing fans. Are you a boxing fan? You call your boxing fan, that's why you're on this station. Here's boxing for you. Here are title fights. You've been clamoring for title fights. Here it is. Check it out. And you may fall in love with us.
Ooh.
Now, I'm going to say I haven't been 106 pounds in a biscuit or two. It's been a while since I was 106 pounds. And as Charles said, well, how old are they? I probably was 106 pounds when I was 10, 12. I don't know. But you understand that this is something that's worth seeing. So it's going to be pretty cool.
Yeah, they also said Ivan Calderon, which we know that name.
Now see, yeah, I know that name, yeah.
Yeah, and Herberto Gonzalez.
Okay. Who we just watched against, it's going away from my head.
Yeah. So
we talked about that fight back in January, if I'm not mistaken.
Right,
yeah.
but so it's not so far-fetched knowing that that's where these guys started. So I mean, because I remember Carvajal was like so little, and I'm like,
yeah.
And then to figure out that he was 108. So I have seen that, Mr. Gordon. Yeah.
See, well, here is my take on it, and I don't think boxing the same way, but when I was in high school, we had guys wrestle. Now I was 6'5", 6 foot or whatever, and probably about 155 pounds at the time. And I consider myself to be skinny. And they said, okay, you want to wrestle? I said, no, I'm a basketball player. Well, if you don't make the basketball team, you can wrestle. Like, well, who said I would make the basketball team? Well, we've heard, okay. So you go out and wrestle. Like, okay. So what do I fight? Or what do I wrestle? Who's at 150? So, oh, no. You can't wrestle at that weight. Like, why not? You got to wrestle down at 130 something.
Ooh.
Excuse me? I've been struggling to keep on weight to get to 155. And you're going to tell me I got to lose 20 pounds? I said, well, okay, who's that guy? Well, you fight Dave. Like, oh, who's Dave? You know, Dave, the linebacker on the football team. He's 130 something. He's a good 175, 180 playing football. But, yep, that's who you have to. Well, what? Huh? Hey, he loses about 30 pounds a week. And that's not possible. Until I ran across my buddy who was as tall as I was, and he was wrestling 118.
Wow.
Like, what? Yeah, so we'd have lunch during school, and he's kind of walk over and go, that smelled like lunch, and then go run. Like, wow. Now, I don't think boxers are that extreme, but as we said, you know, we think of Floyd as a welterweight. Floyd didn't start out as a welterweight.
Right.
We think of Pacquiao as a welterweight. Pacquiao didn't start out as a welterweight. You know, so these guys grow into their body, mature, and all that, and they've got to start somewhere. So these are the kind of fights that I think that we should kind of, you know, I don't know if showcase is the right word, but I'm glad that it's on. So this is something I want to talk about next week afterwards and say, were you impressed? Because they have to have the same basic boxing skills.
Oh, yeah.
And you can have somebody that's got power at 106 or 108 because he's got power against somebody else. So it'll be interesting.
Yeah, no doubt. I think I'm going to watch that for sure now. But I mean, the fact that I know I watched Michael Carvajal when he was coming up through the Olympics. So
right.
I just didn't know how small he was. I knew he was awful small. But now to know that, you know, I have an idea now, found out what I was watching. So I did see a little super flyweight boxing.
Yeah. So we had some education this week.
There you go.
All right. So of all the things that we talked about this week that are coming up this weekend, what's the one thing that intrigues you the most?
I think right off the top is definitely got to be Franco and versus Moloney, just because what we talked about and the way we broke it down and not knowing what's going to happen. I mean, trying to provide some type of prediction or forecast is one thing, but we truly don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
but the intrigue about it is so great because again, Franco wins the first fight legitimately. Moloney comes in the second fight thinking, damn, I got robbed. Everybody saw it. You know, a lot of people saying it was this, it wasn't the head, but no, I really caught you with it, whatever. A lot of controversy. So with that being said, it just opens the door for a third fight. I think it's, to me, those that know, it's almost as intriguing as what's going to be between Wilder and Fury. I really believe that from a standpoint of real just straight boxing, because you don't know. It's too many unanswered questions. And I think people should tune in because it's proven that both of these guys are legit and there's a chance that both of them could win the fight. But then again, it's going to play itself out in the ring. And I think that's worth any type of money you could ever pay to watch a boxing match.
I agree. I think that is the one that just makes me go, there are so many side stories with this.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that we were kept in thrall, and I don't know if ESPN did this on purpose, I doubt seriously, but we were kept in thrall of the ending of that for so long.
Mm-hmm.
And it would have been easy for me to went, this is screwed up, and just went beep and turned the channel.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't get away from the end of that fight, especially because the more it dragged out, the more I'm like, what in the world's happening here? And I kept at it and kept at it. Like, they finally went, they finally got a decision made. Really? Wow. And listen to Timothy Bradley going, and Andre Ward going, Tim, just chill. We'll get an answer. Then we're like, no, they're gonna rip him off just like they ripped me off. Okay, all right, okay. You know, so to me that was cool. The other thing that I think is going to be very interesting is the Showtime card with Casimero and Rigondeaux. Though that's the lead fight, I'm interested to see once we see Gary Antonio Russell, if he does what we expect him to do,
Mm-hmm.
how good does he look as compared to the guys fighting for the title?
Right.
So in the interim belt, whatever the hell that is, WBA, does Gary Antonio Russell look good enough that you would say the next fight he has, if he wins, now let's not discount Rodriguez, but if he wins, do you say, now here's the next fight, is he as good as these two guys?
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't know that Rigondeaux's not going to roll over and die. And I don't know if he's going to roll over at all. Right. So we'll be able to tell how good Casimero is because Rigondeaux's going to make him have to play. Once we see that, we will say, well, Gary Antonio Russell could be either one.
Mm-hmm.
That one kind of intrigued me as well. And then Mendez, Buitrago, the minimum weight. I got to see that. I've got to see that because I've never really paid attention to it before. Like you said, I probably have seen more fights than I thought,
right? But
I don't think I've paid attention to it before. So that'll be pretty cool.
I would call his own. Michael Carvajal's still alive, right? He's cool.
I think so, yeah.
So if I'm the zone, what I would do, definitely since we at that weight, I'm calling Michael Carvajal to see if he would make a guest appearance or at least show up or just call him in and have him talk about that weight because he can talk about what it's like to be that small and throw them hands that when he was called Little Hands of Stone. That'd be a perfect segue to really amp up that division.
And he fought out of Albuquerque, is that right?
Somewhere like that, yeah. Somewhere,
Albuquerque, yeah. Yes,
yeah.
I think it was New Mexico, yeah. So I'm sure he's probably still there. So that would be pretty good. Or if they don't call him, we should call him.
The Zone call me, Zone, call me. I just tell you a story. Call me.
There you go. We've got it. There's an update to what's going on with the Ultimate Sports Network, Real Boxing Talk. We have, keep your fingers crossed, we have resolved some of the internet issues that we were having. Yeah, I know. I shouldn't have said that. Jinx. Oh, we went away. Sorry about but that I think has been taken care of. I have vowed not to do bad voices again, even though Buddy Rich over here is going to make us do some. Sorry. And on that note, we're having fun. So keep an eye out for us. The Ultimate Sports Network is growing by leaps and bounds. We're adding new content providers on a daily basis. So we're making that pretty cool. We've added a couple of projects we're working on if you're watching this and you are a NFL or college football fan, and you know someone with qualifications, obviously, that can talk about your particular team or school, have them give us a buzz. Reach us at ultimatesportsnetwork.com, find their contact page and get in touch with us. We're doing an extensive NCAA and NFL preview. So it won't be just 3 minutes on your team. It's going to be 15, 20 minutes on each team. So we want to be able to cover every team that's playing in the NFL or the NCAA football, or at least the division FBS football. We'll get into that. Mr. Farmer and I have looked into a couple of different things. If you have an opinion on the your all-time greatest 8, the grade 8, starting NBA basketball players. We're going to, geez, I'm messing that up. We want the best 8 players you can think of. If you were starting your team, who would be the 8 guys on your squad? And you can have 8 centers if you want. I don't care. But the 8 guys on your squad, who would they be? Again, get to us at ultimatesportsnetwork.com. Also, we have decided to undertake, or I've decided, I don't think I really cleared this with him, the undertaking of, we've been talking about this for decades now. We had the NBA at 50. This is going to be the NBA at 75. So we're going to add 25 players to that list, or we're going to add 35 players and take 10 off that list. Your call. But we're going to do the NBA at 75, and we need your votes on that, your input, not just us, because we can do it ourselves, and now it's not as subjective as if everyone else does it. So just off the top of your head, since we have 25 spots, who are 3 players that have to be added to that list?
Wow. Wow.
And it doesn't necessarily mean that they played in the last 25 years. It's just maybe they got snubbed from the first one, or you're taking somebody off the first one, whatever. But 3 guys, just off the top of your head, to go, hey, we got 25 more spots. Who goes?
Dominique LeBron. Dominique LeBron and Kevin Durant already.
Okay.
Already.
I see. I am loath to talk about people that are still playing now, so I'm going to kind of keep those couple guys off. But I'm going to go Dominique. I'm going to go Kevin Garnett. I'm going to go Allen Iverson. Those are 3 that have to be on there. And again, we've got another, 17 more spots to go. And there may be guys from before that have to come off. I don't know. But there's, as they say in the business, that's a teaser. So we're giving you a little bit of a tease there, folks. I know it's not boxing, but we've talked about boxing, and we've talked about the greatest of boxing as well. We got a couple polls out there we'd like to hear about. Folks, we just enjoy talking about stuff. So,
yeah.
Clyde Stubblefield, Funky Drummer, take us home.
Yep, Ray Allen too. I forgot to say that. Ray Allen's been there too. But again, we appreciate everyone tuning in. Each time we do, we don't take this for granted. We know this is your time, so we definitely appreciate it. Try not to be too over the top or too crazy. But for those that are really interested in maybe jumping into the broadcast scene or doing something with sports, I think you should really take a look at the Ultimate Sports Network, because you never know. It starts with like a little pebble in the stream, and it goes a long way, and you never know. And maybe one day you can rise up and get one of those, baby. You never know. And get your first credential. And once you get your first credential, you're off and running.
Yep, there you go.
Took me 900 years to get it, but damn it.
Get paid to talk about sports. Hey, what could be better?
Very scary.
And on the last thing, and we haven't finalized how we're going to do this, but if you are, let's just say you're fed up with Twitter, Facebook, and all those things. I know I belong to a couple of Twitter pages and groups that, it's all about, I love this guy, I hate that guy. And then that's all it is. And they're not talking about what's going on. And you can moderate these things on Facebook, but it doesn't work the same. We are exploring the option of starting our own social media platform with the Ultimate Sports Network. So you can be involved in a group with the Minnesota Vikings. You can be involved with a group with MMA. You can be involved with a group with NASCAR. You can be involved with, we'll set up all these groups on our pages, and it's a social media chat forum, all that stuff. So you can ask questions of other people. You can conduct your own polls. A lot of stuff, we're still working on the application, but it's the idea of giving sports back to people and good people, not people that are going to be jerks about it. So many things we can do. Join us whenever you can on the Ultimate Sports Network, and we will catch you later. Thank you. All right. There